Hello, and welcome to Mean Street News. Mean Street News is here to provide accurate news to help citizens affect change in their local government and beyond. Being nice is overrated. It is time to be real. I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. The time to step up and step in is now. So please come join me, Katie, over on Mean Street News to discuss Ohio politics and beyond. I hope to see you there. Hello and good evening. Welcome back to Mean Street News. I'm Katie. Thanks for joining me here tonight. We're going to get right into it because I have a lot to cover on this show. If any of you saw last week, I went over the Dick Miller interview and then I had audio issues and then I did it again. In the middle of it, I had audio issues. So I'm hoping I got all of those fixed. And I am going to switch it up because I didn't really like how I did. I covered MARCS and I want to kind of add VASU in here because they both add to each other. So if you have never been here before, I have been covering, and I'm going to share my screen real quick with you guys. I'll be doing this the entire time to make sure that there is no audio issue. I have been going over what I call a RICO. Previous Commissioner Michelle Hung worked with her, what I believe is worked with her lover. And right here you guys can see Michelle Hung worked with her lover, Harry Williamson, to get a contract for radios. Alan Close passed, it was a $6.4 million, it started as a $6.4 million project in June of 2021, wanted to give it to him, no bid. This guy right here, David Moore, he threw a complete fit at that time and said, we're not doing a $6.4 million $6.4 million bid. So what happened was a whole bunch of stuff. But if you haven't been here before, what happened was these safety forces right here decided to, work together using their associations, Lorain County Fire Chiefs Association, the AFL-CIO, the Lorain County Deputies Association, to push and bully. Matt Lundy's not on here. He's on the other one though. This map goes push and bully to get this contract passed. Ultimately, December 22, she did pass it. It was rescinded 14 days later, and then it was a huge political thing for the next 2 years. Now, if you haven't been here before, you kind of got to go back. I don't have time tonight to cover the whole thing, but here's my what I call murder map, but it's not really murder maps. Don't take me literally. It's a RICO map. Racketeering, influence, organized crime organization. And the way I say RICO is these people use their private associations, right? Also a consultant that was supposed to be for us, mission critical partners, who's interstate, radios that are interstate, and their unions. And we have a email saying so. So I'm confident in saying that to push a $6.4 million, they did have to go out to bid. They rigged the bid by using phase 2 language to ensure that this contractor right here, Communications wouldn't bid, send a letter of no bid because they're not that they're not phase 2 compatible, but they don't use phase 2. That's why they use the phase 2 language. And VASU, and I think they just built some on radios because they weren't going to go for the entire info. He said it'd be too much money, and you'll hear that tonight. This guy, Dana Gollner, had approached Alan Close in early 2021 saying that I have two, and you guys heard this in his own words, previous episode, 2 out of the 3 commissioners, 10% of the $6.4 million, many hands need to be paid pretty much. And that came out of Alan Close's mouth. Now, they tried to associate Dana Gollner with Dave Moore and CCI's lawsuit. Unfortunately, that's not going to work out because the associations clearly are where you see here with Dana Gollner, which are all of these people. I showed you last time, the Tactical Association, Dana Gollner is a manager there, or director, or whatever. Oh no, director there, or whatever. The sheriff of Ottawa apparently got in here somehow saying, I recommended Dana Gollner, but that doesn't really pan out based on both of their statements, Dana and Alan Close says. Now, where does the prosecutor come in here? When the contract was rescinded, there's a couple different things. I'm not going to get into this right now. If not, you guys got to go back and you guys got to watch it. But I need to get into today. We're going to be hearing from MARCS, which is Ohio. Well, Dick Miller from MARCS. Oh, I added this to the stage. Remove that one. Okay. We're going to hear from MARCS and VASU Communications. Both were bidders, supposed to be bidders on this contract in 2022. And we're just going to listen to their experience. And then we're going to expound upon why this really matters. And why it matters is a lot of tax dollars have been wasted in lawfare because of this. And I say lawfare because that's exactly what it is. When the contract wasn't passed, ultimately lawsuits started. Which when people hear like, oh, so-and-so commissioner, this is getting sued, or this person suing, this office, that's your tax dollars that they're using to do so. And they weaponized your tax dollars and also weaponized their positions in order to influence this contract. And me, Katie, I'm like, my dad's favorite saying, ask gas or grass, some rights are free. You didn't do this because you thought it was the best, contract, because it wasn't. You know what I mean? You tried to force the county into something which we've never done before. We've never, ever, ever, ever in the history of Lorain County paid for the safety forces radios. They tried to do that in 2018, but that got deaded by the old board. This got brought back up when Michelle, I'm going to add this to the stage so I can show you. I believe Michelle, in February, just based off this 24th, she was meeting with Mission Critical Partners, which is supposed to be a vendor that is neutral, but clearly it wasn't, because they then in 2022, and you guys saw that it was the last episode of the previous one where Dave Moore says you have Cleveland Communications in this contract 27 times. This is a backdoor way to get Cleveland Communications this contract. And our consultant here is supposed to be vendor neutral. See, from our inception, vendor neutrality is a value that underpins every aspect that we do. And this is the Mission Critical Partners contract. Well, if that's the case, then why do they have in this document Cleveland Communications Inc. listed 27 times? 27 times, just like Dave said. That's not vendor in February, early February 2021 they said to talk about locution project, which they were still kind of on, but this was also too, I believe my thoughts, my theory is, push this contract through. Now, this document I only have because I really thought it was interesting what she wrote on it. It's a Lorain County Mayors and City Managers Association agenda, okay? And Michelle Hung wrote this on it. If you're going to be corrupt, let the people closest to you see it. Well, I might not be close to you, Michelle, but I definitely saw it. And which is why I started to get involved. I got involved, anyways, we're going on to Dick Miller with MARCS and Alan VASU with VASU Communications. VASU Communications, the two other vendors that were involved in this whole fiasco. VASU Communications is our vendor for the last 30 years for communications. He actually built our system that we had now that they were trying to upgrade. And he even agreed they needed to upgrade, but he did say, if you're going to upgrade, my recommendation as the, professional broadband telecommunications person is you go to MARCS. He didn't really feel like the CCI thing really made much sense, and didn't believe that a contractor was going to come in and build a bunch of towers and take the risk of no company staying with them. So hold on one second. My son's arguing with my husband. So we're going to just start here. We're going to get into Dick Miller, his first, let me find it. Our first clip, and then I'm just going to expound upon that. Basically, they ask, when's the first time, you know, when have you gotten in contact with the county regarding MARCS? Because MARCS was painted as, before I start here, MARCS was painted as the guy, hold on, it's going to start playing when I start talking.
Back out there and explain to them.
MARCS this entire time during, I mean, if you've read the paper at all, you've seen the word radio in Lorain County, or radio controversy, or, you know, prosecutor controversy, whatever, regarding the radios. Sheriff's mad about radios, fire safety force mad about radios, MARCS was supposedly, you know, bullying Cleveland Communications for this contract, and was vying for this contract and wanted this contract so badly, and, you know, just was just like, you know, harassing. It was portrayed like they were harassing the little guy. And, you know, when I started listening to this interview, what I found so funny was Dick Miller was pretty much like, I don't care if they want to go with us or not. The state of Ohio is offering interoperability, which means they can talk to, you know, Columbus with my radio. I can talk to Cleveland. I can talk to anybody that is on the MARCS system, which is 75 out of 80 sheriffs are on the MARCS system in case of an emergency. That was the whole point of MARCS, is in case of an emergency, I'm going to be able to click my radio, and any highway patrol, other fires, or, you know, around the area, you'd be able to have contact with them. So he's like, I don't really care if they go with me. For one, I'll tell you right now, I'm cheaper. You know what I mean? Just in cost. They also put money, you know, towards the county and infrastructure. They'll help pay for infrastructure. And he's like, but I'm not trying to sell you something. I'm trying to come in as a state agency and say, hey, let's update your stuff and offer you interoperability so you can talk to who you need to talk to, you know, make sure you don't have loss of coverage. But besides that, he's not competing with Cleveland Communications for business. His VASU's even a little bigger than that. He's like, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? It just, the way they portrayed it, it wasn't so. And I found that super interesting. So we're going to first hear from Dick Miller, and I'm going to shut up for a minute.
The benefits of MARCS to the commissioners?
No, sir, other than individual conversations with either Commissioner Hung or Commissioner Moore.
Okay, tell me about your conversations with Commissioner Hung.
Well, those conversations were just based on the fact of all the other stuff that you talked about that went on. So, for example, at one point we met with them. Commissioner Hung was in a meeting. Director Williamson was in the meeting. We went up to the meeting and we met with them and gave them a presentation about MARCS.
Okay.
And that was at the 911 center. And then after that, Williamson asked for maps, coverage maps. Okay. Which we can generate. And what we did was we generated them off of, for example, we can generate maps off of our current infrastructure, and we can also generate maps off of proposed infrastructure. So if they wanted better in-building coverage, we could put a tower here and see how it covered things, or we can move it over a street or move it up here in that mile. So he wanted maps of that, which I have no idea why he wanted those maps, but he asked for those maps and we gave him the map. And then he asked for what the address was of our tower. We gave him the address of our tower and those kind of things. And then we never heard no more out of Williamson. And of course, I think he got fired. And then it was back to Commissioner Hung. And since then, the only thing we've heard is that we went to a meeting in North Ridgeville, and Director Small was there, and I was there.
All right, before I continue with this meeting, I want to show you guys. He's going to say that Hung, Alan, and Harry were there together, which they were. Here is, if you look to your right, I know it's not like the best, you know, picture, but if you look to your right, that guy with like kind of reddish hair, the bald one, and then you see the blonde cut off, that is Hung, Harry, and Cleveland Communications owner, Ellen Close at the North Ridgeville meeting. By the way, she's a county commissioner. She's not on council. She previously was on council, but not anymore. The 911 director at the time for Lorain County, which was Harry Williamson, and Ellen Close from CCI, all together as they're discussing if they're going to pass this resolution to contract with Ellen Close. So, when we talk about influence, that's what that is right here. But this is where Dick Miller from MARCS is saying that they saw Harry and Michelle and Ellen Close sitting together, which told him they were clearly working together. Let me remove that.
The only thing I know that happened at that meeting, there was a lot of people there that, it was a regular council meeting, and they were going to pass a resolution on what they were going to do with the radio system. And that was put on hold, but the only thing I know at that meeting was, myself and Director Schmall sat in the back of the room, and in the back row of the chairs that were set up, it was Cleveland Communications, Commissioner Hung, and Mr. Williamson. They sat in the back of the row together. And then he waited until everybody else gave their presentation, which we gave a presentation. And then when we were done with our presentation, then he went out and gave his presentation, and that was the end of that.
Okay. Can anybody get these mapping things that you were talking about earlier? For example,
Now, that was the question. I couldn't figure that either. Like, what is the significance of these maps? And this is why I want to tell you right after this. Alan VASU, he talks about the maps. Because Harry, this will be a continued pattern of corrupt behavior with Harry giving out proprietary information to other vendors in order to help Cleveland Communications, which I think is really interesting because he does the same to VASU Communications. He gives out, I want to say 15 of their to CCI and says, can you match this? Or if you want to bid on any projects in the future, here's a bid from our competitor, your competitor apparently, and let me, that's
so
not
if
corrupt.
I told you that the 911 director, Williamson, asked MARCS for a proposal and and their mapping, it's proprietary stuff that they're doing, right?
The mapping?
Well, they're saying, hey, if they ask for MARCS and say, hey, give me a proposal about what, how you would do this, and show me where your tower placements are going to be, and how does this whole thing work? So I'm assuming that part of that package would be, hey, this is what we can do for you. This is what it's going to cost. This is where our towers are. This is how this is mapped out in the county.
Yeah.
And they present that to them. I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's some proprietary information in there, or some company secrets, for lack of a better term. Is that?
Well, there's a whole lot of work involved into it,
Okay.
So the state is going to have to pay their people down there, and they may even, depending on how exotic they get, they might even be paying an outside source to do some of that. So they're going to have some money involved, sure.
What is that typically like? That's if you had to hire somebody outside to map this out. Just ballpark me. Just give me
15, 20 grand. I don't know.
Okay. And so if I said to you that Williamson asked for this information from MARCS, and then there's some communications between MARCS and them asking, well, what do you want this information for? And they don't tell them. Does that surprise you?
A little bit, yeah.
So
they're the one that did the work.
If I flipped the scenario around and said they came to you and said, hey, map this out for me and give me an idea of what you're going to do, and then they give it to you, and then you don't hear from them anymore, would that be like?
Yeah, that would be too kosher.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to know.
Yeah.
If they took that information and gave it to another company.
Gave it to a competitor, that would be real bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know, have you heard anything that may have occurred?
I don't think so. Were
you ever asked for to do something like that for the county?
No. Well, I mean, years past, not
No, I mean recently.
not for this type of thing. No.
Okay.
No, we've run prop studies on the county for their existing.
Now, what I found interesting is when I was looking at the RFP, the actual, request for proposal, I saw on there that maps were requested. Maps were requested in the RFP. So I'm really wondering if those maps that are requested in the request for proposal are those coverage maps. And like he said, 15 would cost them privately 20 grand to do what MARCS Ohio did for Williamson, and then pass that along. It would also help, CCI like kind of show like where coverage is needed. Now we're going to continue, but the biggest problem that I have, not the biggest, but one of the biggest problems that I found out is that this is going on in other counties. This is not specific to Lorain, this radio deal going after fire grants and ARPA dollars to pass multi-million-dollar contracts to either no bid or like kind of a rigged process or rigged bid itself, like here in Lorain County, because I'm going to say rigged bid all day. You guys use the phase 2 language to do it, and I believe that's what it is. It's to rig it to one contractor, which is exactly what happened. So we're going to continue with Dick Miller. And what do I mean it's gone on in other counties? Clip 1. Oh, sorry. I skipped ahead. My first clip was Union. So remember I said that they were using, I fucking fucked this up. Anyways, rewind real quick. Ignore me real 1 second. Remember when I said on here that they were using the Union, the Union to push this contract? And, I don't really make a claim without, knowing or having the evidence of it. And that's where clip 1 comes in. And then I'm going to show you the email as well. Let me pull up the email. I'm just heavy fresh here. Where's the episodes? MCP, North Ridge, Unions. Here we go. Okay, right here. Anthony Strazo from Hinckley. Oh no, Hinckley. Who's this from? Was it Hinckley? No, maybe. Whatever. This was accidentally sent to Hinckley Fire, and someone found out about it. And it's from Alan Close, who's the owner of Cleveland Communications, Inc., right? And it says, subject Avon Lake meeting. Good morning, all. Now, this is January 27th of 2021. Now, they are in office. Michelle Hung, Harry is hired probably 2 weeks at this point. Good morning, all. And they're working on the 5 cities still. 5 cities in the county completely separate, but they tried to integrate it. They tried to make the 5 cities a part of the county. It's great. That's why people get confused. But they wanted to use the unions to push these 5 city contracts through. First, thank you for the awesome number late last night. Second, the Avon Lake Fire Chief called a bit ago and informed me that no decision has been made. The mayors would only commit to deciding on February 10th when they meet by themselves. North Ridgeville was a heavy proponent of MARCS, and all of the fire chiefs were opposed to that idea. The chiefs are now going to have the various unions send a letter of support for the CCI system to their respective mayors who tend to bow to union wishes. If the chiefs and the unions are in favor of a particular direction, it's likely too hard for the mayors to split. This did not go as we wished this morning, but we'll see how it ends. And what happened less than 6 months later is the mayors bowed down to union wishes and passed these city contracts before the county even did anything, which I don't think is was a very smart idea, to be honest with you. And even in their contracts, they had a part about if the county adopted. So you already know what they were looking for. And then real quick, before I start this, I'm going to pull up. So I don't want to go through all these emails with you. And I don't want to go through all these emails with you guys. But while we're listening, I figure just to have something on the screen to my face, I am going to pull up emails. Hold on, that you guys can just screenshot, read them, do whatever you want with them. Showing MARCS and emails about MARCS. So when he's like, oh, they were being a little biased against me, they were. Okay. I'm going to scroll through those while this is playing.
No, the only thing I know is that went out mistakenly that asked the fire chiefs to apply pressure to the mayors, and that was part of what Harris, Cleveland Communications, had sent out.
Right, I'm aware of the email. Do you know or have you heard anything to understand why would the fire chiefs even be willing to put that kind of pressure on to get this Harris radio system? Do you understand what I'm getting at?
I do. I do, and it's nothing proof. This is my opinion.
That's okay.
Only, but all 5 of those fire departments are part of the AFL-CIO, and you have to remember who Commissioner Hung was with.
You're talking about Mr. Williamson, Harry Williamson,
Who was the ex-president of the
AFL-CIO. So you don't get that system. So, but there's still talks about the countywide radio system. At some point, did you get back involved in the discussions about the countywide radio system?
We never left that discussion. The North Ridgeville, he's an ex-state senator, Armbruster, Jeff Armbruster. Mr. Armbruster's been involved and he's wanted a statewide or a countywide system for years. He was not a supporter of MARCS when he was in the state senate. I was there, and he'll tell you that he was not a supporter. He thought it was a large overspend and a boondoggle. But now that he sees it, he's a huge supporter of MARCS, and he thinks it's the best thing for Lorain County.
So it's fair to say he's pushing for the MARCS system for the entire county. And so at some point, the new county elected administration gets involved, or there've been.
So the new county administration would have been who he's talking about, because he's talking about Jeff Armbruster and the fact that he worked as a safety service director in North Ridgeville at the time. He's talking about, sorry, I'm doing 2 things at once. So I'm going to play the next clip and it's not showing me it. Oh, here you are. Clip 1.5. Now, what was I saying? He's talking about, in this safety service director. Now he's talking about the new county gets involved, and that would have been Michelle and Harry Williamson. Either reach out to CCI and to this mission critical partners who was working with the county before to reinvigorate this contract after what has been said. The fire chiefs approached her about, and she ran on the safety forces. So she was happy to. Weird is that her boyfriend was the just then retired AFL-CIO president. He endorsed her. I got her an endorsement for her election. Okay. And then she hires him, deciding vote, job, and then the unions are pushing this contract. You think the boyfriend, and she's married at the time, so is he. You think the boyfriend was like, and the boyfriend met Cleveland Communications before he got into office. It was down in Huron County, which is going to be relevant here in a minute. It was down in Huron County trying to get this. It's too many coincidences, and it starts to add up very quickly. And then based on her schedule, she was meeting with fire chiefs, and this is not, and be very clear, this is not Michelle Hung's job to be pushing and lobbying for a private vendor. This is not her job. Her job is just to get presented the information by her administration and not lobby for one contractor or another, lobby with the safety forces. That's not her job. She's the fiduciary responsibility of the county to oversee the expenses, not get involved on this kind of level and you know, picking and choosing, you know, who's going to get the opportunity and who's not to. That wasn't her decision. So, you know, the biggest issue is this AFL. One of the biggest issues is, you know, using a union to push elected officials to make a decision. And now they weren't really, one Monley wasn't really believing.
As I was told, sir, he was the president of the AFL-CIO for Lorain County.
Which would be 1,000.
Each county
7,000.
has its own
7,000
president of
members.
AFL-CIO. And then you have, yeah, it could be the steelworkers that were part of AFL-CIO. It could be the teachers.
Because somebody told us it was just the Bell system originally.
I think if you look, he was president of the AFL-CIO
Okay.
for Lorain County. That's what I
So
was
there's
told.
the connection between the fire department.
Well, yeah.
Right. Or
Can't be.
do you think he has juice with?
It's a pretty strong union, sir. And I go back to some of my previous experience with AFL-CIO.
Do you think there's any kickbacks?
I have no knowledge of that, sir.
If we were to look, where would we look?
I think your email that you have with the fire unions speaks volumes.
Right.
For a private company to reach out to public employees and say, you need to pressure so-and-so, I think that speaks volumes. And if it doesn't, then that's just my opinion. But if somebody was to do that with you in an email, you've got to think there's something.
There's definitely some type of collusion with Williamson and Harris.
Well, from the auditor's standpoint, and I'll be blunt here. Stop me if I get in trouble.
But the auditors have their own standpoint.
But from my standpoint, and to be blunt here, why wouldn't the auditor just say this has to go to bid?
You're talking about,
Why can't you run street? No, right now, as we stand here at this moment, I'm not aware of an RFP. And if it's that simple to put out an RFP, put an RFP out. And you've got the study from 2018, again, that should speak volumes because it's a $2 or $3 million savings to go to market.
are you aware of the new study subsequent to 2018?
Just was published 6 months ago.
And in that study, have you had a chance to take a look at that?
Yes, sir.
What's your thoughts on that?
That study was done.
This is going to be interesting. The study that they're referring to, there was a study done by the previous board, which I mentioned earlier. There was a previous study, and it said to go with a system that is interoperable with the MARCS Ohio system. Well, then when they were visiting all of this for some reason, they got another study done mid 2022 that recommended a system that was phase 2, whatever, BS. And, Dick Miller kind of just says it, and I'm just going to let him say it. Like, he says in the best way, why would a county, have you ever known of a government entity paying for something to be done twice if there wasn't a purpose behind that? I don't know. I have never heard of a company or anybody paying for a study twice unless it's for a reason. Sorry, can't see it here. Study change XY. Here we go.
Again, you guys are both intelligent individuals. How many times as a county would you pay for a study? If you did one study and it says X, in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or would you expect it to say pretty much the same thing as X?
Well, did you find it interesting that there's a lot of reference to Cleveland Communications in that study?
Absolutely.
And why would, I don't know how much you know about Mission Critical. Have you ever had a chance to work with them outside of Lorain County?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what your thoughts are on that company.
Look at the background of some of the people that did the study and see where they used to work.
I'll ask you, Mr. Miller. Where did
He tells them to figure the sake of time, and I'm going to be putting all these clips on the website, so you will be able to see you'll be able to see the you'll be able to go back and listen to the entire interview if you want to. Okay. No, but I do want to play before I play. Have you had any previous issues? I want to play what I said earlier. All MARCS is offering is interoperability. They're not trying to sell you something. And he says it perfectly.
no vendors or anything? They deal directly with the Motorola.
No, they have Motorola shops in Ohio.
But it's Motorola though. It's not like Cleveland Communications selling Harris
No,
or
sir.
VASU selling Kenwood.
Kenwood.
Right.
No, sir. No,
Okay.
sir. This comes right out of corporate.
Right out of court.
Where's the Motorola dealership in the Cleveland area? Do you know?
There's a shop in Parma out there at,
Brook Parker Road.
yeah,
Okay.
just off of Brook Park Road. You go down there and you go back in a little,
Right by Harris, right by Cleveland Communications.
it's a little ways away, but yeah, pretty similar.
It's in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So right now you're just waiting on this RFP to come out, and then Motorola will issue their quotes,
And again,
and that's standard.
it's standard because we don't have anything to sell you other than interoperability. That's all MARC stands for.
Well,
I mean, we own the system.
interoperability and maintenance, though.
Yeah, but we own the system, but again,
Pardon me.
we don't, this,
I mean, but so if I'm understanding this right, the thing that makes MARCS attractive, interoperability, meaning I can be in Cleveland and talk to some guy on the Ohio River, theoretically.
correct.
And the fact that once I turn everything over to you, I never have to touch it again.
Correct.
I pay my user fee and I
Correct.
don't worry about it. Something happens, you find out about it, or I call you and say, hey, we got a problem. You take care of it.
I think a good statement to understand would be that we have 75 of 88 shares that use us primarily as their communication tool. 75 of 88. That's a pretty big statement across the state of Ohio because, as you may know, the sheriffs are kind of independent
Yep.
groups, and to get 75 of them to go one direction is pretty good. And that's what MARCS has proven to be. MARCS has proven to be a trusted partner, and MARCS has proven to be a reliable entity that performs as it should.
I think I got one more. Have you ever had this issue with Cleveland Communications in any other county?
Yes, sir.
Which counties?
So he's going to want to say, yes, we've had these issues in Medina County, and we've had these issues in Huron County. So first we're going to do Medina County on both sides. You're going to hear Dick Miller, then you're going to hear Alan VASU, because they both ran into the same issue because they're both in the same hemisphere of Medina. Oh, is this Medina? It is. It's clip 4. And then we're going to go to we're going to listen to this one. So, Alan VASU. Oh, my internet. No. Come on. Come back. Hold on, wait for my high five. There we go. Add to stage. Actually, I'm gonna take my face off here. All right.
Yes, sir.
Which counties?
Medina County.
Tell me about Medina County.
Medina County, it's simply Medina County, they are on the Harris system. And Medina County has approached us and they want to go to MARCS. The problem is, how do they go to MARCS? Because what they want to do, they want us to pay a large amount of money to get them off of Harris and over to MARCS, which would be the Motorola gear that they'd have to take the Harris stuff out of the tower and do Motorola gear in the tower. Plus the towers up there in Medina County, very candidly, the towers are less than public safety grade. Our towers are all hardened. They have concrete buildings. They have a generator. They have at least a 21-day fuel supply. They have bomb-proof doors, et cetera, et cetera. You go to Medina Harris System tower, and they're simply a wooden structure. There's no grounding on the structure. Stuff is haphazardly installed, and when I went up to take a look at it, we went with the Medina County maintenance person, and we went to one tower, and he on the door, and I said, "Why are you knocking on the door of a unoccupied structure?" And he said, "Oh, that gets the critters out of the building before we go in." And I would not, so part of what Medina's cost would be to upgrade, because we wouldn't take those kind of shelters and put public safety's life.
Yeah, you'd have to redo everything. Or
So
partially,
that's
at
part
least.
of Medina.
But I'm saying I guess my question is in regards to the original contract, in regards to the original system, have you ever had any issues similar to Lorain County where you're involved in trying to say, hey, you should go with us? Cleveland community is involved saying, hey, you should go with us, and then there's some shenanigans or perceived shenanigans going on. Did that happen in Medina County?
Absolutely. Daryl Anderson and I made a presentation in Medina County about 2014, and we went to the county commissioners meeting and made a presentation, and was very candidly told, get the hell out of Dodge. And they went with Harris.
And did they say, would they give you a reason why?
No.
Did it have anything to do with the fire departments wanting it?
I don't think it was fire. I think it was more just, there was one person, the person that the county sheriff has as their 911 director.
Who was that?
A young lady, I can't remember her name.
She's the one that wanted Harris.
She was the one.
And are there any other counties you had this issue with?
Huron County.
Tell me about that one.
Huron County issued a levy for $4.4 million to redo their system. They could have went to Marks for less than $500,000 or around $500,000, and they chose to go to Harris and never put it out to bid or never did anything.
It's never bid. Did you ask why it was never to bid?
It's not my point. The only thing we can do, sir, is the interoperability side. I fight hard, and hopefully step to do.
I understand that.
Every public safety officer should be able to talk to each other at a given time. And we've had, again, like situations where whole county, in like Montgomery County, when they had that mall shooting down there, and that guy killed about 4 people, and then he was shot within 30 seconds by the police officer. When that all went down, everybody went to the talk group that they were supposed to go to, and it didn't matter whether it was Fairborn or Dayton or who came in. The Montgomery County Sheriff, they were all talking. And that's why that came to an outcome that it was. And then Montgomery County had a tornado went through, and it went across multiple jurisdictions. All they did was turn to the plan. They could all talk. And that's what it's all about.
So Huron County pays they pay $4.4 million for Harris system. Marks costs $500,000. It was never put out to bid.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever get a reason? I think I asked you this. If I did, I apologize. They never gave a reason why it wasn't put out for bid?
No, sir.
Would they normally? Is that any of your business? Do you care whether it was bid or not?
Well, once they've done it, I mean, it's a done deal. I mean,
Right. I'm saying, I'm sure you know, based on our conversation here, I'm sure you deal with these issues a lot. And I'm just wondering what your feelings are about the process in general. Like, I mean, to me, $4.4 million contract to someone is something that probably should have been bid. And I'm just trying to understand what their reasoning was for not bidding it out.
I have no clue.
Would there be any issues with like a sole source or anything like that would have caused them to?
You could always use that, because it is, as I explained, if it's a Harris system, you got to buy Harris equipment. So.
Well, I mean, you could have a Harris system with Motorola radios, though.
Correct.
Right.
And they do it in Huron County because they got an AFG grant up there. The city of Norwalk Fire Department got an AFG grant, Assistance to Firefighters grant, and they bought Motorola radios. And that caused a whole heck of a lot of stir up in Huron County, was the fact that they bought Motorola radios when they were supposed to buy Harris radios. And the fire chief up there that retired said, nah, we're buying Motorola's, and he bought Motorola's for the whole county.
Were they cheaper?
Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming went out to bid.
Yes, sir.
I guess my confusion or my not understanding this correctly is, and I thought I had it. And this is a Motorola box, and this is a Harris system, and this is a Motorola system. And I buy this radio Harris. It's working here. But if tomorrow I hit the government lottery or whatever, and I say, well, I got this money. I'm switching to Marks.
Can I enter?
Hang on, just hear me out. Now this Harris system, I can get rid of this. I can move this in here, but I could still use that radio in theory, right?
Not in theory.
I mean, yeah, I could.
Yes, sir.
So if I hit the lottery here and it says you can only buy the infrastructure, but you can't get the radios, and I'm looking at that and I say, you know what? I want to be on the Marks system. I'm going to get rid of this Harris infrastructure. I'm going to put the Marks infrastructure in. I can't afford radios, so I'm going to take the radios I have. I'm going to go on to Marks. You're still going to charge me $10 per radio or $120 per radio per year.
Yes, sir.
I can do that.
Yes,
Or
sir.
vice versa,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
If I just say Marks sucks, but I'm going to go to Harris, but I'm going to take all the Motorola radios and I'm going to program them to work on that Harris. You can do that.
The first example you're giving is exactly what's happening in Medina County. They have radios, 700, 800 radios that could be used on Marks,
Okay.
but they're on Harris now. But they could be used on
They
Marks.
could flip them
They could
at any point.
Just a simple reprogram.
And I think,
And then go the other way. The second example you gave was Huron County that has radios,
Mm-hmm.
and they have Motorola radios that are working on the Harris system.
gotcha. So,
Is there a fee to reprogram them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to involve the dealer or
So you
the
can't do it
vendor.
yourself?
No. The programming such, sir, that it's so involved now that, I mean, it's almost like having a computer. I mean, you have to plug it into a computer,
Right.
and you have to have the keys and all that stuff that goes along with that. I mean, usually that's $1 a radio would be about an average fee that you'd have to reprogram a radio. So, if you had 100 radios, you'd have, $1,000 in it. Or, I'm sorry, $10,000 in it.
Now, I think the key thing at the end is very interesting because at one point, and you'll see this in the emails, Alan who requests Jeff, it was just Jeff Young. Was it Jeff Young? For the program keys for Marks and Tate and all the other radio, which is way out of whack if that's the case. But I just want to bring that up. Now we're going to hear from Alan VASU about what his experience with Medina and Huron County is. Now, it's funny to me, and I want to bring this up before we dive into that, is what's really funny to me is that Medina now wants to go over to the Mark system, but is $2 million in the hole with $1 million outstanding. And they want Marks to pay off their debt in order to go, as a negotiating tool. At least it's what I'm understanding. It's my understanding of what Dick Miller said, to pay off the debt that they're already in from the Harris system. And I know that just from talking to people in Huron County's had issues as well. And he's right that one fire chief, and we're about to hear about him right now from Mr. VASU, got rammed because he wasn't giving his money, his grant dollars, his AFG grant to Cleveland Communications, not buying their system. But also, another thing is, regarding of whatever system it is, it doesn't matter what radio you had. That's what Marks is trying to say. Like, you can use Motorola, Tate, Kenwood, L3 Harris, and it's not the L3 Harris system. The radio infrastructure project, I guess, is that how I would say it? I don't really believe it, but how I would say it, it would be Cleveland Communications. It has nothing to do with L3 Harris, the radio vendor. L3 Harris is a radio. Cleveland Communications is a radio vendor for them. This radio, project would be under Cleveland Communications. They just tried to keep saying Harris to beat a dead horse. Now we're gonna hear from VASU. Give me 1 second. Medina.